There is so much to love about modern retro gaming. The fact that we are able to play games from years gone by that maybe we never got in a specific region or were never released. And I love the fact that companies like Retrobit and their Retrobit publishing division bring a lot of these great titles to the forefront so we can go ahead and enjoy them. And we have got one today that is being released for the very first time to the Sega Genesis platform and the Mega Drive. Let's take a closer look. So let's take you back to 1988, where P-47, the Phantom Fighter, was released in arcades. It was developed by NMK and published by Jaleco. You know, the same company that put out RBI Baseball and City Connection. Well, they went ahead and released this game where players controlled a P-47 fighter against Nazi forces who are occupying multiple countries. This involves having to destroy waves of enemy forces, collecting power-ups, and destroying bosses at the end of each stage. A pretty normal shmup. The game used its music and gameplay to play more into the fun of shooting down enemies versus the seriousness of a wartime role. The original game would be ported to other platforms and consoles, but the Mega Drive version would never see a release. While the arcade received wide praise, the home PC console ports, well, they kind of got some mixed reviews. Overall, P47 MD is a horizontal scrolling shooter where players take control of their P47 Thunderbolt fighter and they fly through 8 different stages across multiple countries, each with a boss at the end of the stage that must be defeated in order to progress. Players need to collect item power-ups such as bombs and missiles, as well as speed boosters. Taking a hit or crashing into the environment, it's gonna be a very bad day. It's gonna be like when you pizza when you should have french fried. A second player could also join in on the action as well. Now, P-47, the Phantom Fighter, was a relative success in the arcades, and by '89, ports appeared on the Amiga, the Amstrad CPC, DOS, Atari ST, Commodore 64, and even a ZX, not ZX, Spectrum, under the name P-47, the Thunderbolt in Europe. A version on the Japanese Mega Drive was planned to be released as P-47 II, the Freedom Star, but it was canceled. Despite this, a playable version was shown at events, and its soundtrack was part of the Super ROM cassette disc in Jaleco in 2015. So in P-47 II MD, you're going to battle across European and Pacific fronts during World War II and take control of the U.S. Army Air Force's P-47 Thunderbolt. Little historical note, back then it was actually the Army Air Corps, not the Army Air Forces. But I continue. You'll fight to destroy Japan's super heavy prototype bomber, the Fugaku. With stunning multi-layered scrolling, you'll navigate through beautifully rendered stages, including Europe's scenic landscapes, high-altitude cloud seas, and vast oceans. You'll face iconic bosses such as the battleship Yamato. Hey, that was the ship that was the Enterprise sister, wasn't it? Oh, bad things happened to that ship. Anyways, and you also fight against the airborne carrier Akagi. Now, this is the first official release to the Genesis and Mega Drive console, preserving the gameplay from nearly 35 years ago. The set itself includes the Phantom Fighter cartridge for both the Genesis and Mega Drive consoles, an 8mm CD original P-47 II MD soundtrack, a full-colored instruction manual, reversible cartridge inlay sleeve, individually numbered commemorative slipcover, and packaging artwork from renowned illustrator Tanakaro Kato, famous for his plastic model box art. As with all their games, Retrobit strives to re-release some of the rarest and unattainable classic titles for gamers to own in physical form. And this one is unique because it had never been released to the system. It had been planned and canceled. And they take a lot of really detailed steps to make sure that they're protecting the collector market out there. I mean, this is unique because it hadn't been released before. The nice thing that they do as well is they make sure, first and foremost, like the voltage is correct on all the boards. It's 5 volts, so you don't have to worry about it potentially damaging your system. It's going to go ahead and work with not only original hardware, but clones as well. So like the Super Retro Trio 3 Plus should work with that, along with other popular clones, like the, was it the Sega MG or the Analog MG, SG, that's what it is, the Analog SG. There we go. It'll work with that without any problem. They also take the extra step of making sure that they bevel the edges of the boards so that you don't get that death grip or that crunch when you go into your system. Like behind me, I've got my Mega Man The Wily Wars playing. This is from Retrobit, one of their earlier releases. So good. I love this game, and I love the detail that they put into it. This is playing through my JVC-XI, a very rare system. I don't want repro cartridges damaging my stuff. They take the extra care, and I appreciate that as well. Now, so let's go through some of the details on this. First and foremost, when can you pre-order it? Well, from right now, January the 14th, 2025, until February the 16th, 2025, independent retailers are going to have some limited on-hand stock, but this is one of those, if you think you're going to want it, go ahead and pre-order it, because what Retrobit does is they produce to the number of pre-orders. So let's say that they get 1,500 pre-orders, they'll probably have like 1,700 to 2,000 that they actually have made. That way, if God forbid someone has an issue, they've got one they can swap it out with, and they will be available in select retailers as well. Speaking of select retailers, where can you get this? In the U.S., Rondo Products, Castlemania Games, along with P&P Games and Limited Run Games. I'll have links down below to Castlemania Games if you want to check them out. In Europe, Spellenson, Dragon Box Shop, Strictly Limited, 8-Bit Mods, Arcade Dreams, Dragon Box Shop, Just for Games, Ned Games, Retro Cables, Strictly Limited, Extra Life, and Z Labs Z, or Z Labs Z, I guess, since it would be over in Europe. What is a P-47? So this was a type of aircraft used by the United States Army Air Force, they call it. Technically, again, during that period of time, it was the Army Air Corps, at least having been a guardian on an honor flight for a World War II veteran. That's what he referred it to as the Army Air Corps. What's included in this release? So you're going to get the individually numbered slipcover, the game box as a it has a reversible inlay sleeve, fully colored instruction manual, the Phantom Fighter cartridge, as well as that 8mm CD with the soundtrack. How many will be made? We already talked about that. Reprints, pretty much, it's one and done. So when they're done making this initial batch, they're done. You're not going to see them again. What's different between the version that's being released and the one released in Japan? The main difference will be the slipcover and the reversible inlay artwork for the game case. Additionally, all materials are going to be in English versus Japanese. Finally, the game shell will fit properly on a North American Sega Genesis and a European PAL Mega Drive without any problems, or without you having to go ahead and monk around and screw around and make any changes or alterations. The game is region free, so it's going to work on North American Sega Genesis consoles, European PAL Mega Drives, and again, most third-party consoles will run. The main difference between this and the Japanese one, beyond some licensing on the title screen, the entirety of the game is the same as the Japanese game. The entire game is already in English, so there was no need to change anything else, which is really, really nice. So I kind of misspoke a little bit there. That's the first time it's being released. First time being released outside of Japan. The Mega Drive in Europe and the Genesis never saw a release of this. So I'm excited for this. If it's anything like some of the other shooters that I've gotten to play, like the Tau Plan Collection, for example, where you got Truxton and Hellfire and Zero Wing, and just these are great games. And thanks to Retrobit, who works tirelessly with the original publishers to make sure that they treat these re-releases with the love and care and respect they deserve, I'm absolutely looking forward to enjoying this when it comes out and being able to play it. Now, again, I'll have links down below. Make sure you pre-order this if you're at all interested. If you're interested, just order it. That's the best way that I have to say it. Just because if you're on the fence, oh, maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't, by the time you decide, they're probably going to be gone. You won't be able to get your hands on them. So now, if you want to check out what Retrobit has done in the past with some of their other releases, I'll have a link up here in the upper corner. Check it out. Like, these are super cool, and again, the attention to detail and the care that Retrobit puts into these releases, some of the best.